Hello and welcome. This is Business Time and my name is William Kumwembe. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. In the program today, we analyze trends on the maize market as prices continue to go down. And also in the program, gaps unveiled in the e-commerce industry. You have these and other stories. Stay tuned if you could. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time, and in our main story in the program today, maize remains Malawi's staple commodity. Movement of its prices to either direction has a bearing on one, the economy at large, and two, trends in as far as headline inflation is concerned. In January this year, maize prices went down by about 4%. That's on average, exciting consumers but affecting traders on the other end. Our journalist Justin Mkweo has been speaking to some consumers and traders to find out how the trends are in as far as maize trade is concerned.
The bags that you see behind me are the bags of maize. Maize, the staple grain in the country that provides food to almost everyone in Malawi. Maize prices have been rising, dropping, stabilizing, but for the month of January, maize prices shot in December. As everybody knows, in December, most people like to shop. They shop in preparation for January, the general January, or sometimes they just shop because it's the festive season. Sometimes they shop to prepare for school fees and everything as schools open in January. So in December, maize prices shot. In fact, the shooting of maize prices started somewhere around September. So it was slowly shooting up until January 1st. But it has been discovered that towards the end of January, maize prices started dropping. For example, the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI, found out that in January towards the end, by the 31st of January, maize prices dropped by 4% if compared to the first weeks of January. Consumers Association of Malawi, KAMA, believes that the drop in maize prices towards the end of January is because of the decision by the Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation, ADMAC, to start selling maize at the lowest possible price. ADMAC last month announced the beginning of the selling season for them, and they priced the maize at 160 kwacha per kg. This time, when ADMAC was announcing this, vendors or private traders were selling the maize at around 220, some 210, some 230 kwacha per kg. Now, because the market has been, the maize prices have been dropped by ADMAC to 160, KAMA Executive Director John Capito says this has made the private traders to also start reducing their prices. He says that this will have a very huge positive impact on the life of the consumer.
The release of maize from ADMAC and other producers has helped the market to come down in terms of prices. And I'm sure that government subvention on prices of maize has really stabilized the prices, but also made the price to become a bit more cheaper. And that's what I think we expected to see during this period, which is a lean period, and normally prices are too high. And this means that I think the consumer has got a lot of relief now, in that I think he can get all the consumers now can get better, better value for their money when they go to the market. So it is coming at the right time, and it might also improve on our inflation, which is so determined by the food basket as well.
Frighton Njolomole, the president for Farmers Union of Malawi, FUM, says, well, this might be good for the consumer, but it's desperate. It's in a desperate effort for the farmer to sell their maize, because farmers have not yet started harvesting their maize. So this is last season's maize. So Mr. Njolomole says that this is desperation from farmers who do not want their maize to rot in stock. So they are just trying to sell the maize at the lowest, or just trying to give away the maize at the price that the consumer would manage, because without that, the maize would rot. Now, what is the impact of maize prices on the economy? That is the question that is almost asked every time. Maize contributes 45% to the consumer price index in the inflation basket. That means that if anything happens to the prices of maize, then the inflation is affected. The possible impact of the drop in prices of maize, which has happened in January, means that inflation either will ease or will stabilize. Inflation this year has been projected to be at 7.6%. Last year, inflation was at an average of 8.6%. It is therefore only the country's hope that maize prices will stabilize, because the drop in January is an occurrence that doesn't usually happen, because January brings, or is the beginning of the lean season, which runs from January, February, March to somewhere around April, where people now start harvesting their maize, and then the market is flooded again with maize. The government of Malawi, through the Ministry of Finance, hope that inflation will ease this year at the back of a bumper harvest, especially maize, because of the Affordable Input Program, which has seen millions of farmers benefiting, and a good rainfall pattern, which as of now shows that if it continues, farmers will have a bumper harvest.
Minister of Agriculture Lobin Lowe, during a presser recently, announced that the country is expected to produce in excess of 4 million metric tons. This is way above the national food demand of 3.2 million metric tons that the country would require in a year. Well, this means that there would be bumper yield, which means maize prices would continue to go down. As we speak, prices are averaging 8,000 kwacha per 50 kilograms to 11,000 depending on areas. But this is against all odds, as this is the lean period. This is part of what Minister of Agriculture Lobin Lowe said in this interview.
This means we have excess maize. All this is achieved because of AIP and good rain that the country is receiving. We have seen that AIP has totally reduced wrangles which have been there between chiefs and their subjects in a distribution of coupons which were used in the first out feasting. This has been so far the increase of number of beneficiaries. That is more than 4 times, from 900,000 to over 3.7 million household families reached out by my ministry through this program. The use of electronic system application has helped a lot in combating corruption, which has been lacking FISIP, and this has assisted the targeted farmers to benefit a lot directly. The removal of coupons helped government to save money, which was being using in printing coupons and logistics, hence a big increase of total number of beneficiaries. Since 60% of suppliers contracted are local suppliers, most of these together with these suppliers managed to employ a lot of youth as clerks. Though these were temporary employments, many youth have benefited a lot financially. The AIP biometric system provided a simplest tracking and monitoring system.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back, and when we get back, report unveils glaring gaps in as far as e-commerce is concerned in the country. That's when we get back in the program Business Time. Welcome back. This is Business Time, and once again in our main story, we are looking at trends in as far as maize business in the country is concerned. Figures indicate that in January alone, maize prices went down by about 4%. Of course, this comes as Minister of Agriculture also projected that the country is likely to produce in excess of 4 million metric tons of maize, Malawi's staple commodity. Now, what are analysts saying? Ronald Chilumpa is one of the agriculturists in the country and also an official from Farmers Organization Limited, and shares his views in as far as production and trading of maize is concerned in the country.
Yeah, my personal assessment is that there will be a bumper yield. We should be looking at over 4 million metric tons, which the Minister of Agriculture has already alluded to. Going around, you actually see a better crop of maize. Good rains have contributed to that, as well as the affordable input program. So yes, we are looking at a better yield this year compared to last year.
Last year we produced as a country maize precisely,
yes,
about 3.7 million metric tons.
Exactly.
Your projection, which augurs well with the projection from the Agriculture Ministry.
Yes.
4,300,000.
Yeah, 4.3 million safe.
4.3 million metric tons.
Yes.
Which is about 600,000 metric tons above last year's production.
Yes.
What impact would this have? One, to the agriculture sector, two, to the economy at large?
Yeah, to the agriculture sector, because the first box to tick is food security. So we should be assured that the country will be food secure, which is a basic need for the population in Malawi. And secondly, if you're looking at the economy, the first thing that comes to mind is the inflation. So because food, which maize is key, will be readily available, and we are anticipating lower prices, which may be good or bad, depending on which side you want to stand. But at the end of the day, inflation is going to be on the lower side, and it will also depend on our strategies on what we intend to do with the surplus. You see, there are a lot of things that can happen with the surplus maize, and we can, for example, earn forex out of that. So yes, it's a positive development for the country, I would say.
Talking of maize outputs, there's been fluctuations.
Yes.
Looking at the past 10 years, for example, you'd see this year we'll harvest 2 million metric tons.
Yeah.
The other year, 2.5.
Yeah.
It's not as sustainable.
Yes, yes.
What's at stake?
Yeah, there are several things that are at stake or out of order, if I can put it that way. The first thing is for us to look at who is producing the maize. We are talking of the smallest farmer out there who is not as consistent in terms of productivity. The inputs that they access, you find that will correlate with the yields that they're getting. Like, for example, we're talking about 4 million plus metric tons of maize this season. And we know government has pumped in 160 billion on inputs. If you check the other years where we had lower yields, you will notice that the amount of inputs given to the small-scale farmer were on the lower side. That's one. Secondly, you're also looking at climate change, which is out of control of anybody. Not even government can control climate change. Now, that's where I think as a country, we haven't done much. We need to start looking at a strategic direction on addressing climate change. If we are to put in inputs worth 160 billion and we don't have any irrigation facility out there to support such kind of a crop.
Talking of the 160 billion
Yes.
towards the AIP,
Yeah.
which is about 47%
Yes.
of the total budget, total allocation
For means of agriculture.
sector.
Yes, yes.
Would I be wrong to conclude that we are obsessed with one crop as a country?
Yes, I totally agree with you. We are obsessed with maize. It's a fact. Yes, we call maize as a staple crop, but it's also a political crop. Let's not forget about that. It's a political crop, and we know there is vested interest by politicians in the crop. But we have, I think, over-invested, and probably we haven't invested properly, correctly, targeting the specific areas that can give us yield and sustainability. We can get the yield this year. The 4 million metric tons, we are celebrating, yes, we'll get that. But I know there are sectors within agriculture that would have been looked at to make sure that as we are progressing, we are exiting from this subsidy program. At the end of the day, we need to say farming is a business.
Now, a recent report by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development shows that Malawi needs to do more in as far as its participation in electronic trade and e-commerce is concerned. This comes as access to internet remains a challenge, and the cost of internet is one of the most exorbitant in this part of the world. Justin Kweu has the detail in this report.
Findings of a study by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development show that there are challenges in 7 relevant policy areas which need to be addressed if the country were to enjoy e-commerce. The areas include e-commerce readiness assessment and strategy formulation, ICT infrastructure and services, trade logistics and trade facilitation, payment solutions, legal and regulatory frameworks, e-commerce skills development and access to financing. The report says that the overall e-commerce enabling environment in Malawi faces challenges hampering its further development. The report also says that the main challenges include the population's lack of trust in online systems, low level of internet access by the population, low technology adoption by firms, lack of access to financing, and weak IT skills across the population. The report has outlined that in the era of massive technology across the globe and Africa specifically, Malawi is losing a lot for dragging to implement technologically advanced ways of growing the economy. Minister of Trade Sosten Gwengwe admitted that the country faces myriad challenges to implement e-commerce, singling out lack of finance. He, however, said that government has put an interministerial committee from different sectors which will work towards rectifying the problems highlighted in the report.
Basically, there's an interministerial committee working on ironing out these challenges. I know that our key challenge is finding resources to be able to roll out these kind of programs, but we cannot just stop. However little, it's better to make the first step rather than wait until all is in place. So basically, our approach is let's start, because e-commerce or e-trade has various aspects. We have moved towards having a trade portal, for example, where information about Malawi's exports, Malawi's opportunities is available. And we want to take all these small initiatives, put them together and have a robust e-trade and e-commerce where people can trade, but people can also share information, and even if it's investors or traders outside wanting to know what is available in Malawi, to be able to access such kind of platforms. So we are ready, and the launch of this report has really just given us more aggressiveness towards this approach. It's something else that we've always been looking at, but now we want to move even as faster as possible.
Commentators have been saying that Malawi is yet to benefit from opportunities arising from e-commerce.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe, but always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Goodbye for now and stay safe.